and foremost, I would like to thank Indian Academy of Sciences for this immense opportunity given to me to speak about my initiative where we talk about stones which have been used in the monuments and why it is important to document these stones. Most of the time we visit monuments and we are very happy looking at the historical accounts or the archaeological accounts, but we don't talk about the stones. So this project is way forward that geology should come to fore, where we document the stones and the stories of the stones, because these stones have documented all the historical accounts, archaeological accounts, architectural accounts, and how the societies have shaped. So my first slide tells you about the structuring of the talk. I have divided the talk into 3 parts. The first part is stones in monuments or monuments in stones. We have to differentiate. There's a difference, stones in monuments and monuments in stones. Because if there were no stones, we would have never got monuments and we would have never got the historical accounts. Relevance and significance, why they are important and why we need to document them. The second important point, laterite, its formation and distribution, because I have been specifically invited to talk about laterites. The third part of my talk will be laterite, the subtle narrator, because laterite only knows what has happened in the past. We are just trying to interpret. So to break the monotony, I would like to give one example that we all identify this monument. All of us know this is Taj Mahal. And the rock on the left side is marble, which is derived from Makrana. Most of the people, they are aware that Taj Mahal was built using Makrana marble, which was transported from a far-off place, which was not in UP, it was from Rajasthan, a place which is almost northeast of Jaipur, and the stone came from that place. So how the stone was transported for miles to reach Agra. So there are very interesting stories about the transportation of this stone. But most of the stones, they are locally used. For example, the stone laterite. The monuments all along the Western Ghats where laterites are commonly forming, the monuments can give you a beautiful glimpse of the utilization of laterites. And recently, I was at Hyderabad, where I witnessed this sound and light show at Golconda Fort. And I have been to this fort many a times and have even seen this light and sound show 5-6 times. But this was a different way of looking at the show. And I want to play a small clipping from the show where the narrator tells if the stones could speak. And as a geologist, I vouch stones do speak. We have to have the art to listen to them. So I want to play this.
एक गुलशन था जलवानुमा इस जगह रंगों जिसकी दुनिया में मशहूर थी एक गुलशन था जलवानुमा इस जगह रंगों जिसकी दुनिया में मशहूर थी बेगमों की हंसी गूंजती यहाँ शाह की शान शौकत भरपूर थी
आइए आइए इधर से आइए मैं सुनाता हूँ आपको इस किले की कहानी ये पत्थर देख रहे हैं ना अगर इन पत्थरों की जबान होती तो गोलकुंडा के ये पत्थर हमें जाने कैसे कैसे किस्से सुनाते बहादुरी और हिम्मत की शान और शौकत और ठाट बाट की बीते हुए युगों के किस्से जो वक्त की बहती हुई धारा में विलीन हो गए क्या शान थी इस किले की इन बुर्जों पर कभी सिपाही पहरा देते थे इन मेहराबों के नीचे से होकर सुल्तान गुजरते थे। इन गलियारों में बेगमों और रानियों की पायलें खनकती थी और बाजारों में दूर दूर से मुसाफिर और व्यापारी आते थे। आज सिर्फ बाला हिसार की ये सूनी इमारतें, वीरान खंडहर और उजड़े हुए महल ही गोलकुंडा की बीती हुई शान की निशानियां हैं। ये दीवारें और चट्टानें ही उस शान और शौकत की गवाह हैं, वक्त और इतिहास को चुनौती देती हुई, खामोश, रहस्यमयी और अटल।
So this small clipping tells us that whatever we interpret vis-a-vis this Golconda Fort is through the rocks, through the monument built in the rock. So the essence of my talk is based on this message only, which was clear to the narrator 23 years back when this video was recorded, but it took us so long to understand that we need to document the stones. We read a lot of plaques where it is displayed that this ruler was part of the fort, and then it was invaded by the next ruler, by the third ruler, and how they changed the fortification, they enlarged the boundaries of the fort, or for that matter, any other monument. But we don't talk about the stones. All right, so Makrana marble I already showed. The second stone is Jaisalmer limestone. I'm first trying to give you a little account of why stones are important, then we will talk about the laterites. The first one is an expression of love, memory, architecture, craftsmanship, and aesthetics. We all know it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Taj Mahal. But strangely, the criteria which has given this a UNESCO tag is architecture and aesthetics. So UNESCO is also planning to incorporate stone as a criteria for all the stone-built heritage sites. So that is the project on which we are working. The second stone is about our expression of divinity, because it is a Jain temple in Jaisalmer, the Ludarva Jain temples, about our religious beliefs, about craftsmanship, intricate carvings, and architecture again. So these are all based on stones. If we had no stones, we would have never had the religious beliefs documented, and we would have never known that how the practices were in the past, how the craftsmanship was in the past, what were the emotions of the people, why they made such tomb structures, or why they made such temples. Then the last one is an example of Tughlaqabad Fort, which is made up of Alwar quartzite. Now this fort, anywhere in the world, the forts are expression of power, defense, strategy, architecture, and craftsmanship. So these are all diverse monuments, but what is common to all this? All these monuments are the stones. Stones of diverse types, but stone is the common foundation of all these monuments. So currently, these are all tourism spots. But why can't we make them as geotourism spots, where we make public aware of the stone, the stories of the stones, how the Jaisalmer limestone formed, or how the Makrana marble formed, how the Alwar quartzite came into being. All right. Now this very interesting rock, which is again part of Western Ghats, especially concentrated in Maharashtra, parts of Gujarat and Rajasthan, is basalt. Very nice basalt flows are visible in Mahabaleshwar. If you ever visited Mahabaleshwar, you'll see number of flows, and these basalts are known for Ajanta Ellora caves, Elephanta caves, Gateway of India. So these monuments, they utilize the local stone available, which was basalt. And one of the examples I would like to place is from Elephanta caves. So one of the caves have this triple-headed Shiva, which is known as Sada Shiva in basalt. And it is found in Elephanta caves, which is off Mumbai. You can see the location of the Mumbai is on this side. And if we go towards the east, there's this elliptical red enclosure, which is the location of Elephanta caves. Now, this was interpreted as that the central sculpture shows calmness. The left side, Shiva, is little angered. So if you look at the interpretations by archaeologists, the image of the center is calm and welcoming, while the face to the viewer's left shows Shiva's ferocious aspect. His fierceness is emphasized by a twisted mustache, frowning expression, skulls and snakes in the matted hair, and earrings in the form of snakes. The face on the viewer's right, meant to signify a gentler aspect of Shiva, this face is shown with soft curls, wearing a sweet-tempered smile and carrying a lotus. So this is how we, okay. So this was towards the left, which shows an angered face, and towards the right, with the lotus in the hand, shows a pleasant face. And in the center, he is very composed. So the interpretations are extremely important, which are again sculptured in the stone. So what's the relevance and significance? The science of architecture came into being because of the earth materials, because of the stones. The science of geology as a formal subject came into being because of the stones. The history, the historians, they make up so many stories based on what has been recorded in the past in these monuments. The archaeologists, the evolution, history of art like sculpturing, inlay. For example, marble is a perfect rock for inlay. When we talk about Taj Mahal, what comes to our mind is white marble, but there's beautiful inlay work throughout the marble inside the monument. So the semi-precious stones, which enhance the beauty of the marble, is through inlay work, which is a form of art. Then inspiration for poets, lyricists, writers, and directors. So we saw a glimpse in this Sound and Light show where the narrator talks about the importance of the stones. The tourism, a huge tourism industry where people visit these monuments and enjoy them, and much more to it because the societies and cultures are based on our historic past recorded in the rocks. So I work for a commission, as I said, this is part of that project where we are documenting many stones from India, not only the laterite, and these stones, they all are related to propagation of cultural values and the traditions. Now, we have 3 sub-commissions. One is sub-commission on geosites, the sub-commission on heritage stones, and sub-commission on geocollections. Sub-commission on geosites talks about the natural sites, the sites where there is no human intervention, which are sculpted through natural agencies like wind, water, glaciers, and we have a lot of scope of documenting these natural geosites. For example, the Lonar Lake of Maharashtra, or the columnar basalts in Karnataka, St. Mary's Island. So these are naturally sculpted. But we, as Subcommission of Heritage Stone, talks about stones which have enhanced the heritage value and where humans have played a major part. Subcommission on Geocollections talks about the museum collections, because everyone cannot visit the field. So for them, we display a lot of artifacts or samples in the museum for them to enjoy and understand the relevance of those specimens. So how do we define heritage stone? It is a designation, just like a UNESCO World Heritage Site designation. IUGS Heritage Stone is an IUGS designated natural stone that has been used in significant architecture and monuments, recognized as an integral aspect of human culture. So, to date, 32 stones from around the world have been designated as IUGS Heritage Stones, and India is fortunate to have 4 stones designated. One is Makrana marble. The second, Alwar quartzite, which tells you the historical accounts of Delhi. Delhi was ruined and rebuilt number of times. After 10th century, Delhi came into life 9 times, and what we are experiencing now is the 10th city. So the foundation of this city is based on the quartzite. You all must have heard about Delhi Ridge, which crosses Delhi. Then the third stone is Deccan basalt, which you all are aware of, the beautiful flows of Deccan basalts. And the fourth stone is Jaisalmer limestone, which is known for the Jaisalmer fort, the only living fort of India where the people lived inside the fort. Okay, so this is the kind of certification which is given by International Union of Geological Science. For example, the Deccan Basalt India has been designated as a IUGS heritage stone. The Western world takes a lot of pride in documenting their heritage stones. So India is a bit slow, and we are trying to document because we have the most, I should say, enriched monuments in terms of their architecture, in terms of their artwork. So now we start with laterite. This is a plaque which is displayed in a place called Angadipuram in Malappuram district of Kerala to celebrate laterite, which was first time named, although the stone was into use or was into being for many years, but in 1807, a man named Francis Hamilton Buchanan, who was a surgeon, he named this rock as laterite based on a Latin word, later. Now this is a very intriguing rock because when you cut it, it's very soft. But when you leave it and expose it to air conditions, it becomes hardened. And it has survived many years. Whatever monuments you see in and around Goa or all along the Western Ghats, they are made up of laterites. Now, laterite forms by weathering of rock in humid tropical parts of the world. It is not only confined to India. If you go to Cambodia, you will see Angkor Wat temples. They are also made up of laterites. It's usually reddish and mottled and porous in texture. So I was just having a chit-chat with one of the dignified ladies in the auditorium, and she spoke about her childhood memories when her grandmother built a house of laterite, and she said it was so porous that we could see through the pores, and it is still standing strong after so many years. So the beauty of this stone is that it withstands the atmospheric vagaries, but to preserve it or to increase its longevity, one needs to lime plaster it. And it is economically also very important rock because it is an ore of aluminium, ore of iron. When we weather this rock, the iron and alumina in this rock, it changes into hydroxides and minerals like limonite, goethite, bauxite. We all have heard about bauxite. It is the only ore of aluminium. So economically also it is a very important rock, and as a building stone also it has been extensively used. So just to give a brief introduction, I'm sure all of you know what is a laterite. So the bedrock, which is the rock which has not been affected by the external weathering conditions, the profile will form based on how deep the water percolates. So from the surface, there will be a ferricrete capping, which we call as gosan. That's why the soil appears so reddish. So me and ma'am were talking about it. She said the soil is so red. The reason for the reddening of the soil is high iron content. And then we have limonite, which is iron hydroxide, followed by saprolite, which is a partially weathered rock, and then the original bedrock. So laterite is composed of, this is the laterite profile, and you can see a real laterite profile. On the top you see the soil, which supports the vegetation, followed by mottled area and the lateritic profile. So to celebrate laterites and its usage, Geological Society of India erected a monument, and this is the monument in the memory of, again, Francis Hamilton Buchanan, who named this rock as laterite from Angadipuram, Malappuram district in Kerala. So this is just as a mark of respect. They have displayed this as a national monument, geological monument in this area, from where the laterite came into, this name came into existence. So I already spoke about what are the minerals which are present in the basalts. They are minerals like pyroxenes and plagioclases. And these minerals, they are rich in iron, and plagioclases are rich in aluminium and alkalis. So alkalis being mobile, they will leave, and the rock will get concentrated in iron and aluminium. So that's why we get minerals like, goethite, hematite. Then kaolin is a form of clay, which is alumina rich, and gibbsite, aluminium rich hydroxide. Megascopically, like what we see through the eye, the samples are reddish brown to dark red in color, so we can see the coloration. And the rocks mainly constitute ferruginous minerals, again, goethite, hematite, imparting reddish brown to dark red color to the rocks, and yellowish white colored because of the kaolin and gibbsite, which is alumina rich. So the best bauxites, which are used for, the best laterites, which are used for building purposes, are iron rich, which are found along the Western Ghats. All right, so this is a textbook picture where we tell students that these are the Western Ghats, which runs for 1,600 kilometers, and the average width is somewhere 50, 80 kilometers, and somewhere it reaches 100 kilometers. So this zone is capped by laterites. Everywhere we will get the color change because of the bedrock, difference in the bedrock. For example, in Maharashtra we will see basalts. In Goa region or Karnataka region, we will see some metasedimentaries, some metagravicates, and in the Kerala part, we will see a lot of granulites. So the rocks are different, but the rock formation is the same, and the laterite will take the nature depending on the bedrock which is getting weathered. So we see the location of laterite in the form of mesas and carapace, and some laterite quarries from where we extract the stone. So the quarries are marked in yellow. This is a very generalized profile where you all know where is the Konkan coast, the narrow track from where the Western Ghats starts, and the Malabar coast in the Kerala part. So we can see again the laterites forming all along the Western Ghats, and it is because of the hot and humid climate where the rain is torrential, and then there are periods of humidity, and the weather fluctuation leads to intensive weathering of this rock. We come to Goa because the laterites which we will discuss, the monuments prominently which we are going to discuss, are from Goa. Now, the laterites forming are along these 10 plateaus marked here. We also call them as flatlands, tablelands, and you can see the distribution of the quarries, laterite quarries in Goa, and the monuments in laterites. So the source of the laterite for the monuments is very proximal. The quarries and the monuments, they are somehow related. So when these monuments were constructed, there was no formal science of geology. So people had that sense how to use the stone. The architecture was not a formal science, but people knew how to stack the stones together, and I think they are much more stronger and stout than what we construct today. So the last part of the talk, laterite, the subtle narrator. Okay, so we start with the cave monuments in a place in northern Goa, in Bichulim, which is Arvelam Cave, and this is very near the Arvelam waterfalls. If you have not visited this place, all of you are in Goa, you must visit this cave, which is a 5-chambered cave, and it is believed that the 5 Pandavas once occupied these 5 chambers. But what we found in this cave is the placement of lingas, the Shiv lingas, and it is identical to what we found in Elephanta caves. And this is an in situ, like the stone was not transported from anywhere. That was the architecture at that time, that the cave was excavated, and you can see the profile. This is the profile, and I'm showing the profile here, the formation of laterite below the soil profile. So if you see, the central shrine is with a similar pitha enshrined by a linga with visible cylindrical top and square bottom, which is similar to the early usage of linga at Ellora and Elephanta cave. So this is how the archaeologists interpret. Now, going a little ahead in Bichulam, we see the color change. There, you saw the color was much darker in comparison to this. So that is because the iron content which has changed and the amount of weathering. Along the cave, it is not very much weathered. It is, the bedrock is still seen. But as you go far off, you will see the soil profile is thickened, the mottled part is thickened, and then we see the lateritic formation. The second cave, which is part of South Goa, and I'm not sure how many of you have visited this cave. This is Rivona cave. Another interesting cave where people believe that the Buddhist monks, they meditated. And why they thought so is because of discovery of a headless image of Buddha in the vicinity of this cave. You can see this is all lateritic. I'm sure you can all identify how the laterite looks. Then I come to some of the forts which were constructed not only during the Portuguese when they came to India, but during the invasions from the northwest. And this is one of the fort which overlooks the Vegator beach. I'm sure some of you must have visited this fort. And what we see is just the remnants of the ramparts which once were the defense walls of the fort. So it is all in a condition where we need to preserve and restore them. And the fort is fortified with laterite walls with several gun and cannon points. That's the bastions and the parapets. But as of today, if you look at the entire picture, you can see the ramparts, the fortification, but what we see is just the fortification wall and nothing else. The second fort, which I discuss, is Rais Magos Fort, which was a defense fort, which was used for defense purposes, but lately it became a prison for the people who rebelled to free themselves from the Portuguese rule, and after that converted to a hospital, and finally it is an art gallery. So how the things have evolved over a period of time. So you can see the solitary confinement cell and the restored fort, which has the craft center, the exhibition halls, where these displays are from those exhibition halls only. These displays are from the exhibition, which give us the historical accounts, how this fort has been used since 1493. Okay, now very interesting petroglyphs, which we get in South Goa, in a place called Usgailimal. This is the place. And this was an accident, a torrential downpour led to the visibility of some of the petroglyphs, and the local people reported this to Archaeological Survey of India. The whole area was cleared, around 3,000 square meter, and around 120 to 125 petroglyphs were recorded. So you can see some engravings that is of labyrinth, a pair of bulls, a headless bull, and a peacock. So this was the expression of the people during those times. Otherwise, we would have never known. And this labyrinth, which is also reported from different parts of the world. So for comparison, you can see a labyrinth at Cornwall, UK, which is in a shale. And this is from Goa. So it is a very interesting engraving, which is supposed to be used for clearing of the water or for the passage of the sacrificial blood. So this is how they interpret who knows why these were created? So a clear picture, and they even relate it that you don't see too much of meshing inside. It is from the center to outer part, and it is like two cobras sitting together, coiled together. Then we come to very famous UNESCO sites, the 7 convents and churches of Old Goa. So these are all documented here. The Chapel of St. Catherine, the Church and Convent of St. Francis of Assisi, which is in a dilapidated state, although it looks, when I went there, I really enjoyed the place, but I think we need to restore this place as well. So all these 7 group of convents and churches, they form UNESCO sites, and why were they designated as a UNESCO site is because of the architecture, which was architecture which involved Minoan architecture, which is very Portuguese architecture, then Mannerist, which is Renaissance, New Renaissance from Italy, and the Baroque architecture. So it's a merger of 3 different types of architecture which led to the designation of these as UNESCO sites. So the front, or you can say the facade of the Basilica of Bom Jesus, where you can see the utilization of laterite, along with basalt. This is what I've read, that this is basalt rock. I could not sample it because they don't allow you to take any sample. And you don't see any carvings on this rock because it's highly pitted, porous. You can't carve this rock. So the beauty of rocks, for example, the limestone can be carved, marble can be carved, but you cannot carve a laterite. And this is a closer view where you can see the pitting very clearly in the laterite. So I was talking about this ruins of Church of St. Augustine, where the bricks of laterite were used and lime plastering was done. So it could survive longer than the time anticipated, because this rock needs to be conserved through lime plastering. All right. Then the use of laterite in Chapel of St. Catherine, again, you see very intense utilization of laterite and how it is getting deteriorated at places. Okay, there's very interesting Portuguese colony, or you can say a small part in Panjab, which is known as Fontinhas, and it is a UNESCO heritage zone. So the core structure, if you look at this, is made up of laterite again. In the core, you can see the laterite bricks have been used, or masonry stone has been used. And these are again lime plastered and very bright houses. It's a beautiful setup in Panjab area. And UNESCO Heritage Zone since 1984. Now I move to Kerala, where you see these mushroom-shaped rocks and the circular pattern, where these are known for urn burials. The remains have been buried beneath these structures. And these are from the past, like we don't really know when this culture of burying the remains started. But these features are very common in Kerala. Again, the utilization of laterite in Karnataka, in Mirjan Fort, and the bastions you can see on the fort sides. And then this is a fort in Kerala, the St. Thomas Fort. Again, utilization, and still the laterite quarrying is going on, and we can see the division of this 1.72 meters, for example, into 9 sets. So the blocks are cut like this, and they are left for 3 months to get hardened, and they are still being used. If you go to the countryside, you will see a lot of residences made up of laterites. So with this, I want to finish off this little account on the story of laterites. And I want to acknowledge my co-authors because I came all the way from Chandigarh to cover this area. And these are my co-authors. One of my students is sitting here, Parminder, Jaspreet, Uday. He's also a student who's working with NCPOR. And Professor Raymond Duraiswamy, who's from Savitribai Phule University, Pune. Bobby Matthew from St. Xavier's College. And C. Srijit from Ponani College, Kerala. And I want to thank you all for listening to the story of the stones, and I hope you will remember the saga of laterite and some unique monumental stones which I discussed. And I want to play this small clipping once again.
Are the relics of Golconda's past. These rocks and ramparts are the sole witnesses of that splendor. They alone have survived, unfazed by the march of events, defying the ravages of time, mute, inscrutable, and unmoving in their silent vigil. The legacy of India's glorious past.
ये पिला ये फसीले ये वीरानियाँ ये पिला ये फसीले ये वीरानियाँ हैं उसी शानो शौकत परछाइयाँ जिसकी दिलकश कहानी है राज़दां सितारों जड़ा आसमां वक्त की मार सहकर जो कायम रही कैफियत बस यही थी उसकी आन की गोलकोंडा की अज़मत का कहना ही क्या ये किला है निशान उसकी शान की ये किला है निशान उसकी शान की ये किला है निशान उसकी शान की
So the poet says, what witnessed the grandeur of this fort is the star-laden sky. But as a geologist, I would like to say the rocks witnessed it all. Thank you.
One thing I want to ask, you said some of the stones are heritage stones.
Some of the stones are?
Heritage stones, declared as heritage stones like
Yes,
Makhana
yes,
marble.
yes,
Which means
for-
that it cannot be used anymore or something like that, stop
Yes,
in.
they are being used. The Makrana is being used, the Jaisalmer stone is being used. But one of the important issues which we raise is that we need to declare them as historical queries. We don't want to replenish that resource so that we get it for restoration purpose. As you know, the Makrana is almost finished.
So
because-
you need a special permission to use that stone for any construction purpose or?
Yes, this is being used because the Indian government is not ready to stop querying. It gives you a lot of economic loss if you stop querying. You know, laterite was stopped by the the querying was stopped by Supreme Court, but I've heard it is again reopening. So,
I think we should, like Western countries, we should stop using it. Perhaps if you want to preserve them.
yes,
I feel. That's
some
my
of
view.
them, especially the ones which sourced the stone for the monuments.
Certainly,
Yes.
yes. Thank you.
And in the West, they do this.
Here is one question.
Hi.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Kaur. Like, it was marvelous talk, and means definitely change. It will change our perspective whenever we will go to such kind of monuments. So just to like, you showed one world map where
Yes.
you showed like all the different
The designated stones.
Yes, yes.
There are stones like Carrara marble. Everyone
Right,
knows
right.
about which.
So ideally, means if you see like Africa or maybe some other different countries or even like continents, there is no information about different type of rocks here, right? Like, I'm
because
just wondering.
this concept is slowly picking up. If you look at the map, you will see most of the stones are from Europe.
Right, right.
It is a very unbalanced scenario.
Right, right.
And India is the only country from entire Asia which has 4 stones.
Okay.
And let me tell you, next year laterite will be a heritage stone.
Okay. So one
we are
more-
already working on the proposal.
So you already talked about like in Karnataka
Correct.
several monuments, but like let's say Hampi. So is it also laterite or is it
No,
like
it
some?
is not laterite. It is a gneissic rock, granitic gneiss.
You had the sub-commissions, you said geosit,
Submissions, geo collections,
right,
sites, natural
Right,
sites,
yeah.
and stones.
Where are fossiliferous rocks, where do they feature? Because as you know, India,
Stone is full of fossils. And Globigerina stone, if you see,
Right.
it is from Malta.
no, so I'm saying, do you have a special category for fossiliferous rocks? Because as you know, India has destroyed all its fossiliferous rocks. So is there in this sub-commission any special category for, say basalt with is so highly metamorph,
It is an igneous rock.
igneous, so hardly will contain fossils. So do you have a category in,
Ma'am, there are 2 different things. Fossiliferous
go to the mic.
Fossiliferous rocks, in natural sites you mean to say, or for the monuments?
Natural sites.
Yes, we have a lot of places which have been designated as IUGS, heritage geosites. We have in fact UNESCO global geoparks which are coming up, which document a lot of such sites in China, which are fossiliferous. And many parts of the world they document, and in fact India is also trying to get it's this Dhar area from Madhya Pradesh as a big UGGP from India. So some projects are in pipeline, and in fact Government of India is trying to, like, we geologists, we pestered them so much that a geo-heritage bill should be introduced, where we talk about preserving these sites, because once lost, they will never form again in our lifetimes or in millions of years. So there's a special bill which we want should be contested, and it should be passed, and it should be forced into being so that such sites are not disturbed. And we need to preserve them. Very valid. Yes, madam.
Well, in the first part of your talk, you mentioned about some cultural attributes associated with rocks. So, for example, if one wants to display power, would one always use quartzite?
Oh, it depends. It depends on the area. For example, laterite for the forts. Laterite for the forts in this part of the country. Alvar quartzite was so predominantly present in the Delhi ridge, so it was used for fortification in that part, because the transportation is not that easy. It's only very special stone like Makrana marble, which had very special attributes. It's a calcitic marble. And the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta is also made up of this marble. There is a very interesting story, not story, it is basically a factual documentation in one of the INSA volumes. When the proposal of building this Victoria Memorial came, the stones from Carrara were brought to India and from Makrana. So the Makrana was found to be much tougher and less prone to weathering. So the memorial was built using Makrana.
So it's
Carrara is a height stone, good for sculpturing, but not for monument building, because the stone bows very easily.
So it's essentially physical availability.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Ram?
of course.
Here.
Excuse me. Towards the end, you were showing the petroglyph with the maze and the
Yes,
similarity or the virtual identical one in Wales, did you say?
No, it is, yes, from UK, it is not like that. it is different because they have interpreted it as two coiled cobras.
I see.
Yeah.
But it looks very, very similar, right?
Similar, but they have different design because that is like a mesh, and this is like from the center you can go to the outer peripheral area for discharging the rainwater or sacrificial blood, as I said. This is what has been written in the records.
Thank you, ma'am, for drawing our attention. I'm a local Goan, and laterite is a everyday for me, but it's so important. Laterite is found all over. There are two kinds of plateaus. One is local lowland plateaus, where even this institute sits on a plateau, or airport sits on a plateau, and highland plateaus like Karst Plateau is an example. I would like to draw your attention, because saga of laterite, I would like to draw attention to another chapter which can be there in this saga in August gathering. Research from Goa University and research from Kolhapur University has found that these laterites are high in endemic plants. These the porous rocks, they have the deposition of organic matter, and only during the 4 months of rainy season, otherwise they are dry and barren, and only these 4 months they bloom into the wonderful different plants, and the endemicity is so high that the endemicity of this plants on this plateau is equal to or more than the evergreen forest in southern India. And there are more endemic plants on the plateaus in the northern Western Ghats than the forest. And this is one of the findings which I'm also a bit part of that group, wherein we are trying to tell the government that these should be also preserved. And
I would like to include this in our proposal, because this will add in value to our proposal, that why these laterites are also important for the endemic species of plants. And this whole Western Ghat is already a natural site, UNESCO natural site.